I'm going to tell you about a 40-minute conversation that happened in my office one Tuesday afternoon last May. A conversation that cost nothing. A conversation that saved $50,000 from a 71-year-old client of mine. 4 questions. Just 4. Each question had an answer that seemed harmless at the moment. But the 4 together showed, with absolute clarity, that the man on the other end of her phone screen did not exist. I'm Patricia Cole, attorney for 18 years, specialized in elder law and estate planning. I chose this field after my own aunt lost her life savings to a predatory financial advisor my cousin had introduced. I was 28 when that happened. I'm 46 today. In nearly 2 decades of practice, I've represented hundreds of families. Probate disputes, contested wills, abused powers of attorney, drained joint accounts, co-signed leases that cost paid-off houses. Every kind of patrimonial harm that happens within a family or against a family. But over the past 5 years, there is one specific kind of case that has walked through my door every single week without exception. It is romance scam. Romance fraud. The international term is the same, and it is the fastest growing fraud against widowed women over 60 in this country. There is no complete official statistic because the majority of victims do not report. But based on my own caseload and conversations with colleagues across the elder law bar, this is a national phenomenon. In every income bracket, in every region, in every state. I'm going to tell you about Eleanor. That's not her real name, but she is a real client of my firm. And hers is one of the few cases in this category where I was able to make a difference before the money left her account. That's why I chose her case for today instead of others, because her case has a practical lesson you can apply tomorrow. Eleanor was 71 years old when she walked into my office last May. She came in with her son Eric, 42 years old, a tax attorney in Hartford. Eric was the one who requested the urgent consultation. He had discovered the night before that his mother was about to make an international wire transfer of $50,000. Eleanor had been widowed for 4 years. Her husband, Frank, had died from a complication during a routine cardiac surgery. They had been married for 46 years. Eleanor had worked her entire adult life as a librarian for the public school system in Hartford, Connecticut. Educated woman, religious, composed, mother of 2 adult children, 3 grandchildren. Modest pension and Social Security. Paid-off house in a quiet residential neighborhood near her parish. Some conservative investments at a regional bank. She wasn't wealthy, but she also didn't have $50,000 to lose without it compromising the structural balance of her retirement. Her routine before all of this began was simple and well-organized. She woke up early, made coffee with toast, read the newspaper until 9. Went to Wednesday morning Mass at St. Joseph's, the parish where she had been baptized. Had lunch with her neighbor Helen 3 times a week. Picked up her youngest grandson from school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Took him to the playground near her house, gave him a snack, dropped him off with his father at 7. Evenings, she read. Always read. She had a bookshelf with over 800 volumes in her living room. Lifelong reader, since she was 12. It was reading that opened the door. Eleanor had met the man 9 months earlier in a Facebook group for classical literature in English. People commenting on books, discussing 20th century European authors, posting poetry passages, recommending editions. Apparently safe space, educated people, calm conversation. Eleanor had joined that group 6 months after Frank's death, on the suggestion of her son, so she could connect with people who shared her interests. The man presented himself as David Mackenzie, said he was American, 67 years old, a retired Navy officer, widowed, 2 sons in California. Said he had purchased a property on the Costa Brava in Spain to spend his retirement, but flew back to the United States every 3 months to handle Veterans Affairs paperwork on his pension. The photo was of a distinguished man, gray hair, upright posture, usually in discreet locations. Stone patio, balcony overlooking the Mediterranean, library with old books in the background. They started talking about Stefan Zweig, an author Eleanor adored. Then they moved to discussions about Stoic philosophy, then to confidences about widowhood. David would talk about his wife who had died of cancer 5 years earlier. Eleanor would talk about Frank. The two of them cried together over video chat several times, although she later told me that his camera was always off under the pretext of poor internet on the Spanish property. 6 months of conversations every day, several hours a day. Eleanor began waking up with anticipation for his messages. "Good morning, my queen. Sweet dreams, my princess. How was Mass today, my love?" He sent poems in English every Sunday morning, sent passages from Rilke's letters to Lou Andreas Salome, sent photos of sunsets seen from the balcony of the Spanish property, sent voice notes, 15 seconds long, in his own voice, with what she thought was a Texas drawl. Eleanor, a Stefan Zweig reader, found in David the continuation of a sensibility she thought she had lost with Frank. He said it had been God's grace that had brought him to her after her widowhood. Said he was thinking about selling the Spanish property, returning to the United States to wrap up affairs there, and coming to live with her in Connecticut for the rest of their lives. She asked if he would speak to her in English at home. He said of course. She asked if he would attend Mass with her on Sundays. He said he was a Christian like her, that he had been raised Episcopal, that he would do whatever she wanted in her own space. Eleanor began telling her children. She didn't hide it. That's an important detail that distinguishes her case from more severe ones. She told Eric, told her older daughter, who lives in Boston, told her grandchildren, showed photos, said she had met a wonderful man. Her children, at first, were concerned, naturally. But Eleanor seemed so happy, so rational, so organized in the way she spoke about him, that they preferred not to intrude. They said they were supportive, that they hoped to meet him soon. Then came the trip. David told Eleanor in mid-April that he had boarded a private cargo ship to travel from the United States to Singapore on an old business arrangement with a company he had invested in 20 years earlier. It was a cheaper way to travel than commercial flight, he said, although it was a luxury, since it was a private cargo ship of a friend's company. He was fine. It would take 3 weeks to arrive. But 2 weeks later, he sent a message in panic on a Sunday evening. The cargo ship had been seized at Singapore Customs over a documentary irregularity. He was fine, but he couldn't disembark. The authorities were demanding a $15,000 bond to release him individually. His friend's company had gone bankrupt during the voyage, and there was no one left to guarantee the administrative bond. He had accounts frozen in the United States from a divorce dispute he was resolving. He needed Eleanor. Just for 2 or 3 days. He would pay her back as soon as he got home, $15,000. Eleanor went to her bank on a Wednesday morning, made an appointment, brought documentation. The branch manager, who had known her for 15 years, asked basic questions. What was the wire for? Who was the recipient? Eleanor couldn't answer clearly, hesitated, gave a generic explanation. Said it was for an American friend who needed help. The manager, an experienced professional who had seen too many cases like this, asked her to think about it for one more day. Come back on Friday. Eleanor agreed. That night, she called Eric, casually, talking about the week, about the grandchildren, about Sunday Mass, and at some point mentioned she was going to send some money to Singapore. Eric froze, asked more. Eleanor explained. Eric, in a panic, called me that same night at 11 o'clock. I fit her in for a consultation Tuesday afternoon. Eleanor arrived at my office Tuesday with Eric, irritated with her son, thinking he was being dramatic. She came dressed nicely, with lipstick, earrings, hair styled, sat across from me with the posture of someone about to explain to her attorney that there was nothing wrong with her behavior. Her son sat next to her, quiet, hands folded in his lap, letting his mother speak first. I didn't start with judgment. I didn't say it was a scam. I didn't show her anything. There was nothing on my desk. I started differently. I said, Eleanor, I'm not going to tell you what to do today. You are an adult woman, autonomous, in charge of your own life and your own money. I'm just going to ask you 4 questions. You answer honestly, to your son, to me, and most importantly, to yourself. If you answer them and you still want to make the wire transfer tomorrow, I will not stop you. Question 1. Have you seen this person in the flesh, outside of a phone screen or a computer screen, at any moment over these 9 months? Eleanor thought about it, said, No, not yet. But it was supposed to happen, several times. He had visa issues, travel issues, a child's medical emergency, 3 planned in-person meetings, all postponed. Question 2. Has this person ever asked you for money in any amount for any reason before this $15,000 request? Eleanor took longer, thought, looked at her son, said, He asked me once to help pay rent on a beach house where he wanted to spend time writing his memoirs. It was $3,000 in February. He said he would pay me back. He hasn't yet, but he was going to. And he asked me once for about $400 for a blood pressure medication in March when his American card wasn't working overseas. But that doesn't count, Mrs. Cole. That's a small thing. Anyone would have helped. Question 3. Can you, right now, right this minute, open a reverse image search on my computer and we look up his photo together to see whether it appears anywhere else on the internet? Eleanor looked at me. The first thing she said was, I don't know what reverse image search is. The second thing she said, more slowly, was, but if you'd like, we can try. Question 4. And this is the most important of all. Think slowly before answering. Don't answer quickly. Would you trust this person, who you have never met in person, to take care of your youngest grandson, the little one, for an entire afternoon, alone, without you anywhere nearby, in your own home? Silence. Eleanor looked at the desk, looked at her son next to her with eyes welling up in a way she hadn't seen before, looked back at me, and answered quietly, Mrs. Cole, I would not. I don't know him that way. I let the sentence hang in the air for a few seconds. Then I said, Then explain to me how you trust this same person to ask you for $50,000. That was the moment. I saw it in her eyes, the first crack. The question had landed. Eleanor agreed to do the reverse image search with me. She sent me a photo from her WhatsApp. I saved it, opened Google in my browser, clicked the camera icon, uploaded. In 5 seconds, 14 different sites came up. I enlarged the screen so she could see better. Modeling agency in Madrid, with the real name of a retired professor of comparative literature, with a discrete professional profile, a timeline of academic lectures and publications. Stock photography site with the photo license by a photo agency, sold for prices ranging from $10 to $50 for use in various advertising materials. 4 fake Instagram profiles in 4 different languages showing the same man with invented names, with invented lives, with invented stories. One in German, claiming to be a retired engineer living in Hamburg. Another in Spanish, claiming to be a retired Argentine businessman in Miami. Another in Russian, with captions Eleanor couldn't read. And one in English, with the name David Mackenzie, retired Navy officer, Spanish property. Eleanor looked at that screen in silence for 2 or 3 minutes. Her eyes moved from one browser window to another, comparing photos, captions, dates. Eleanor cried in my office. Not loud crying, defeated crying. She spent 20 minutes almost without saying anything, holding her son's hand. Eric also cried, silently, without making a sound. Then she said something I also can't forget. She said, "Mrs. Cole, I am not foolish. I worked my entire life in libraries. I know how to recognize a lie in a text, in a book, in a contractor's estimate. How did I not see this?" I answered her, "You didn't see it because the scheme was designed for you not to see it. David, or whoever is typing on the other side, is a professional, has training, has a manual on how to approach a widowed, educated, middle-class American woman, has a timeline for how long it takes to build trust before the first request, has variations of the script for each victim profile. You weren't being treated as a person, you were being treated as a target. And their job is to make targets unable to see." If you're watching this now, you probably know an Eleanor. Could be your mother, your aunt, your mother-in-law, a coworker over 60 who has met someone online recently. Could be you. Doesn't matter. This video is for you regardless. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. I read every one. If you know someone living through this, write the state where you live. Don't share names, don't share personal details, just so I can map where the cases are concentrating by region. Back to Eleanor's case. She did not make the wire transfer. That's the good outcome. $50,000 stayed in her account. But there's a part I have to tell you honestly, because it is part of the reality of this country. Even with the wire prevented, I was unable to do anything else useful against the scammer. I took the case to the FBI, submitted all the evidence. The stolen photo side by side with the real Madrid professor's profile. The fake Facebook profile of David, the 9 months of messages, the phone number he used on WhatsApp, the email through which he had sent the false Singapore customs letters. Everything organized in a folder with an index. The FBI gave me the standard answer, the same answer received by colleagues who bring similar cases. Without a consummated transfer, without quantified financial damage, the case enters the queue for attempted wire fraud with transnational scheme identification. They register it, classify it, attach it to the National Database of Online Fraud. But active investigation, with international cooperation, with subpoenas for IP records outside the United States, That only happens when there is large damage already consummated, or when there is an organized class of victims with multiple losses tied to the same scheme. An isolated attempted case where the victim was protected in time goes into the giant queue. David, or whoever was typing as David, simply disappeared overnight when Eleanor stopped responding to messages. Profile gone, number gone, email gone. Probably that same day, he was already approaching another widowed woman in another Facebook group in another state, with another stolen photo, with another invented name, with another timeline restarted from zero. This is why I tell you, prevention is the only remedy that works against this scam. Reaction does not work. The American justice system does not have the speed to reach this kind of fraud. International cooperation is too difficult for accounts that open and close in 48 hours. The money becomes smoke before the case begins to be processed. What works, the only path that works, is for the scam not to succeed. It is the victim not transferring. I'm going to give you now the 4 questions I asked Eleanor. Write down these 4. If you know someone in the situation, do these 4 with that person, slowly, in a quiet place, over coffee. If you are in the situation and listening, do them with yourself, writing answers on paper without rushing. Question 1. Have you seen this person in person, off the screen, at any point since you met? If the answer is no, it can be a sign. It is not proof of a scam by itself. There is legitimate online dating that takes time to happen in person, especially when the other person lives far. But combined with the other 3 questions, it becomes a strong sign. And if it has been over 6 months without a single in-person meeting, with successive postponements due to travel, health, or work, it is a very strong sign. A real person who wants a real relationship finds a way to meet in person. They do not pile postponement on postponement. Question 2. Has this person ever asked you for money in any amount for any reason? If the answer is yes, in any amount, it is a strong and definitive sign. A real person with a real life in a serious relationship with someone they met online does not ask for money, does not ask for 20, does not ask for 200, does not ask for 2,000, does not ask for medication emergency, does not ask for held packages at customs, does not ask for cargo ship bonds in Singapore, does not ask. If they asked, ever, in any amount, it is a sign of a scam. Question 3. Can you do a reverse image search on this person's photo within 3 minutes on Google from your own computer? How to do this. Save a photo this person sent you on your phone or computer. Open Google. Go to Images. Click the camera icon at the search field. Upload the photo. In 3 seconds, Google shows every place on the internet where that photo appears. If the photo shows up on other profiles with different names, on modeling sites, on stock photography sites, on profiles in other languages, it is a scam. Definitive. No maybe. No maybe he was a model. No maybe someone else is using his name. It is a scam. Question 4. And this is the definitive one, the one that makes the most difference. Would you trust this person right now to take care of your youngest grandchild for an entire afternoon, alone, without you present? If the answer is no, think carefully about what that means. It means that deep down, you know you don't know this person well enough to trust them with something precious. And yet, you are about to trust them with $50,000, or $20,000, or $5,000. The inconsistency here is what should wake you up. Financial trust without personal trust is never real trust. It is only emotional pressure from something else. And one last important thing. If you suspect that someone in your family is going through this, do not confront. Do not accuse. Do not show up shouting at her house. The shame of romance scam is the strongest weapon the scammer has. The victim closes up when she feels judged. Learn this from me. I see it every week. Invite her to do the 4 questions together casually on a quiet afternoon over coffee. Say you heard about this fraud and want to understand how the test works. Do the 4 as a casual exercise in the tone of someone who is curious, not someone who is accusing. Don't accuse. Don't confront. Don't call her foolish. Just do the 4 together. The answers speak for themselves. That's more or less how I did it with Eleanor. I didn't accuse her. I didn't tell her she was being deceived. I asked the questions and let her own answers come through. And that's how she was able to see before it was too late. It worked with her. It can work with your mother, your aunt, your friend, your mother-in-law as well. I see this happen every week in my office. Every week, a new family comes in with the same story, with different names, different amounts, but with the same structure. Sometimes I'm able to apply the test in time, like with Eleanor. Sometimes the family arrives after the money is already gone, and what I can do is preserve what is still preservable. If you've stayed with me until now, thank you, truly. I know this topic touches a nerve, but I'd rather talk about this than about anything else, because this information saves your family's wealth and saves the relationship with the people you love. Send this video to someone you love who is over 60. Send it to your mother, your father, your mother-in-law, your aunt. You don't have to explain, just send it. Tell her you watched it, found it important, wanted her to see it before anything that might come next. Because romance scam doesn't pick foolish victims. It picks lonely victims who needed some affection that didn't arrive in time. And you, listening now, might be the only one who applies the 4 questions in time. I'm Patricia Cole. Stay with me on the channel. The next story I'm already preparing.